It's Innovative Mondays here at Future Ready Educators. Thank you for joining us. We are going to be talking about preparing future ready students and navigating the evolving and ever changing job landscape, which seems to be shifting and changing every single day. How do educators and schools keep up with all of it? That's what we're going to talk about today. Hopefully, you gather some great insights as we end the school year here, or whenever you're watching this on demand recording here on Future Ready Educators in the community. Wherever you're joining us, thank you. If you have questions, please leave those below. And I'm excited to dive in this topic. It's something that is near and dear to my heart based on my experience of learning and being a student and now an entrepreneur and starting several different businesses, and how I've prepared and how I think students and educators should think about this topic as things continue to shift and evolve. And so thank you guys for joining. And please, again, if you have questions or comments, even after, if you're watching this and it's July, go ahead and leave a comment. We'll engage, and we look forward to this conversation, continuing this here on Future Ready Educators. So we're going to go ahead and dive in. Obviously, the big story is the changing job landscape. Jobs are changing all the time. And the question we're asking ourselves, and you as educators are asking as well, is the traditional education system able to prepare students the way we have? I think the answer is yes, but also the answer is, are there other ways we can think about this? And these are just some great stats that we've come across as we've studied this topic, as technology continues to evolve and reshape the job market. By 2023, or by 2030, excuse me, this is a weird stat to even think about or say, but it's estimated that 85% of existing jobs haven't been created yet, which makes it really difficult for educators to try to predict the exact skills students need. We understand that, but we think there are some ways you can prepare students for that, and I think every school strives for that. They all want to prepare students for the future that doesn't exist today. But that's a pretty staggering number to think about, that there are jobs like what, that's the business we created, that didn't exist 10, 15, 20 years ago. If you think about me growing up, there wasn't live streaming companies. There was production companies and things like that. But, for Strive TV, the business we started didn't exist. And now there are jobs that we have created that didn't exist 15, 20 years ago. What are the skills that students can learn now? We're going to tackle that. But it's important to know, you know, certain things that are going on right now to get us to that. 50% of jobs are expected to have some type of tech skill required. I think of back when I was a student and learning how to doing keyboarding, a skill that at the time schools thankfully were getting computers in their schools and teaching kids how to keyboard. That was relevant for myself back in the 90s when I was in elementary. Is that necessary now with everybody having touchscreens? And should we be teaching keyboarding anymore? I don't know the answer to that, but I want to challenge and try to help schools and educators understand that those are the types of skills that did transpire, but now maybe they've shifted a little bit. So 50% of jobs will require that. 75% of employers are seeking candidates with strong soft skills, which includes communication, problem solving, and teamwork, which seem like very basic skills. Oh, we're doing that. Students are learning that. But are we being intentional with those types of skill developments in school? Are we integrating and having, when I go in the classroom, I have students stand up and say, speak in front of their other classmates to share something that they learned. And so they've got to communicate that. Are we doing that enough? Are we giving students opportunities to problem solve enough? And are we getting them in teams? I think there are some schools that do a great job of this. There's some teachers that do a phenomenal job of this. But overall, are we challenging our students with that? Because that's what the market is demanding. We've got to recognize that. That's going to be a theme that we talk about throughout this training. And so that's the question. Is our current education system? I think there are some amazing things happening in education. I think Education is now under the microscope. We have to understand that things are changing. Our schools and educational systems keeping up with that to prepare students. That's what we're after and trying to see my mission to try to help schools with every single day. And so that we can adopt new teaching practices and innovate and try new things every single day. We've got to have that mindset. So, here's some other things it's important to kind of think about as far as innovative teaching practices and technologies and how we prepare students, the power and importance. So, just recognizing this, the importance of innovative teaching practices and how it can help students develop these skills such as communication, creativity, critical thinking, adaptability, right? There's things I do now that I look back in my education that really allowed me to adapt to whatever the market was requiring. And are we doing that enough? There's essential skills that are needing to be developed to navigate the future job market. And are we incorporating technology into the classroom that can enhance learning experiences, not just putting a device in front of them, but is it actually helping them learn better, making their learning more engaging and relevant and personalized for students is really important. And embrace innovation in education. Teachers have the power to create future ready learning environments that equip students with the skills needed. No doubt about that. I've seen that over the last decade with working with teachers around broadcasting and digital media. That's why we started this, is because we recognized we were working with future ready educators already. And we want to amplify that. We want to expand that to more teachers, more educators, and understand that, there are students that have gone through our programs that have developed what we consider future ready skills to succeed in an ever changing world so they can adapt. But it starts with the teacher recognizing that. And can they embrace that? Can they create that environment of, I talked to some teachers of, hey, we want to fail and we want to fail fast, especially in our digital media class, in our business class. But is that happening in math and science? Science probably. Math, I don't know. I'm not a math. I don't work with a lot of math teachers, but overall is the vision for all of the teachers. Are we providing space for students to fail, not by grade, but by what they're doing, and so that they fail fast, so they can learn quicker. And then something I think is a buzzword, right, in this innovative teaching practice, but how can we provide collaboration opportunities? And not just in the classroom, but with other educators to stay informed about the latest teaching practices and technology trends so that teachers can stay ahead. And I've got some thoughts that I'll share a little bit, but these are some things you need to know about the market right now, right? And the next thing is, uh, you know, why do you need to know this? Well, there's challenges, right, in equipping students with future ready skills and relevant skills for future jobs. And one of those things is, how do we prepare students for jobs that don't exist yet, that require skills that are adaptable across all sorts of different industries and roles? Well, this study from McKinsey, after COVID, the future of work after COVID, mentioned by 2030, the demand for basic cognitive skills will decline while the demand for higher cognitive, social, and emotional skills will grow. So the age old of memorization and, learning things as opposed to 20 years ago to now are changing, right? We have Google. I teach my kids how to look things up. Whenever I'm work with students, I'm always like, do you know how to use Google? Right. And now that's just shifted to how to use ChatGPT. How do you use these tools? Those, you don't have to memorize anymore. You don't have to retain as much information. Now that's a scary thing to think about in education, right? That we want to retain information, and then the way we show that we learned it is through a test, right? For me, I don't retain it. I don't retain information very well. I've got to always be reminding myself. I always have to be searching. So the way we've done that is valued a lot different because someone can just go look it up really quick. And then the social and emotional skills are important as well. but things are shifting as far as skill development and the challenge that we have in equipping students because it's changing all the time. And we just need to recognize that. We've got to be aware of it. And so these are some responsibilities that we've based on that we've identified that educators, just need to be aware of in adapting their teaching methods. Again, I am not a teacher. I've worked with educators over the last decade. I'm excited. I'm actually going to be in the classroom this next year at Heartland, helping with their digital media class, so that I can learn and I can try these things and have the flexibility to do that, so that we can help equip teachers and educators and look at these responsibilities that you guys have. And the first one is, as things change and evolve, it's crucial for you guys to educators to stay up to date and to find what's relevant. Ensure that skills and knowledge that you're teaching to students remain relevant to the demands of the future job market. How much are you talking to people outside of your school about the curriculum that you have? Is it relevant? I made a note here later on that, I think there's curriculum cycles, and looks like my good friend Edwin's on there. Maybe you can provide some context for me in the chat. I was hoping someone would have context on this. Is what's a typical curriculum cycle? Well, maybe it's 5 years, sometimes like that. Well, in the things we're teaching, it might change every week. How does a teacher stay up to date to that? It's really hard, and we're asking teachers to now try to be relevant. We understand that. We want to provide tools and resources for you so you can remain relevant, and that's why, we'll get to of the purpose of future ready educators. But remaining relevant is really important. And so I know there's a lot of teachers who do a great job of that. They're on social media, they're in different communities to remain relevant. And I think that leads right into you're going to have better student engagement, right? You're going to be able to adapt your teaching methods to incorporate new technology like Chat GPT pops up. Well, how do I integrate it into my classroom? And you're going to see students become more engaged. They're going to interact. It becomes a little bit more personalized for them, those learning experiences. And so they engage more as opposed to just doing the same thing over and over, no matter what's happening outside the classroom. What skills are being developed? The with the job landscape, what are the requirements for students now to develop different types of skills? How are they developing critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, and adaptability? What does that even look like? How do you develop those skills? We got to practice those. It's got to be integrated into your lessons and activities. And I've been doing some testing with that. It's not perfect, but just giving space to students to problem solve. Let them think about the school and the problems maybe the school has, right? It doesn't always have to be adults. Those are skills that students can learn. And for us, we've been doing broadcasting and streaming, and we think those opportunities, they're real world, hands on learning. Those are great skill development for students. They're learning how to communicate, they're learning how to work together on a team and collaborate. They're using their creativity skills to create graphics and videos. Those are very hands on things. How do we do that in all of our classes? And adaptability, walking into the gym and not knowing where you're going to get internet, you got to be able to adapt and do things on the fly, especially in the live streaming space. And that's why, again, at the core of everything we're trying to do moving forward now is to take what we've learned over the last decade and how do we amplify that for other teachers in other spaces. So the teacher plays a crucial role in fostering these and giving them environments to learn these skills through these innovative teaching methods. Again, innovative teaching methods doesn't mean you have to be using technology all the time. Equity and inclusion, right? There's going to be evolution in the job market constantly, and certain students are going to get access to opportunities because of resources they have. We understand that. We're not denying that. It's a real thing that's there. There's gaps that are there. So how do we get students to have an equal chance at different jobs based on skill development? First thing is that the student has to choose that, right? But we also understand there's uncontrollables. We talk about that all the time. And there are gaps. How do we overcome those? How do teachers help, provide opportunities for all of their students, not just some of their students? How do we develop responsibility of promoting lifelong learning? What does that look like? That didn't click for me till later in life, till I found out that I could learn stuff that I was passionate about, not what was being, told to me in the classroom. How do we embrace this mindset that encourages students to become lifelong learners and thrive in a constantly changing world, right? Reading, I can turn my camera around, all the books that I read. I didn't read like that when I was in school. But how do we allow students to explore those different passions as opposed to just the required reading that the teacher, you know, has them do? And so I think there's an opportunity there for educators to expose students to some different things to show them what learning really can look like. And then on the other side, for the teacher, there's professional growth, staying informed of the latest developments, new technology. We talked about that already. That can lead for them. They're growing to hopefully better. You guys, as an educator, have better job satisfaction and effectiveness. You feel like you're making an impact. I think that's been taken away from a lot of educators over the last several years because of the microscope on education, which I think is a good thing because it's causing us to innovate and think differently. We can't be doing the same thing over and over what we've been doing. How do we collaborate and network with other educators? I talk with educators all the time, and that's why we're trying to do what we're trying to do is provide those opportunities. Gives them a renewed sense of purpose in their education by working with other educators. We've seen that again on the broadcasting and the Strive TV side of schools working together to broadcast events. And it's exciting to see students come together and learn together. It gets educators doing the same thing. Networking is sometimes a business term, but I think you need to do networking in education to learn from others, to practice and get insights, and it can really benefit your students. Educators and businesses need to talk more. They need to collaborate more. So I'm a fan of the career pathway programs as it allows businesses or people in the industry to connect with educators. I think businesses need to ask educators how they can serve them, and educators and schools need to ask businesses how they can serve them, vice versa, and try to bridge that gap. As educators, teachers are accountable for preparing students to navigate this new world and the complexities of the evolving job landscape. So, you know, they're being accountable for what students are going out and doing. And are they adapting their teaching methods to fulfill that responsibility? That's a question I think you need to ask yourself. And then future proofing education by embracing these responsibilities to adapt, it's creating resiliency and hopefully a future ready education system that can adjust to the changing demands of the job market, right? So that was my question of reviewing curriculum should be more often than five years, right? 3 to 5 years is what Edwin's saying. And so I understand that takes a lot of time, but in the business, digital media, tech space, I don't think we have that much time to review that. By 3 to 5 years, that the content's out of date after a year. And so how do we overcome that? How do we future proof that in education? So those are the responsibilities, big topic there, and a big section of this training. So kind of looking ahead of, you know, thinking critically about teaching practices, it's important to reflect and evaluate current practices, right? Again, based on what we just talked about, all of these things, we need to see where there's gaps, improvement, embrace new strategies, especially in the space that we're thinking about. Otherwise, we're not doing justice to getting students ready, right, if we're not challenging ourselves. So I think there's potential for innovation, and that means trying different ways of teaching. It doesn't always have to be the way that you've done it in the past. Now, that's just the way I'm built. Not everyone is built that way. I have the working genius of invention, and so that's another training. But I love starting and creating new ideas for things. So obviously, the light bulb in my head always is going off of thinking of new ideas. If that's not you and you struggle with that, that would be your working frustration. That's why we created Future Ready Educators, is so that you can surround yourself with people who are thinking of different things and you can think critically about your current teaching practices and get some ideas from others that maybe you then can implement. It doesn't have to be you. You don't be hindered by your lack of innovation. That's okay. Surround yourself with others who can help you innovate. And doing that's really simple. There's three kind of different ways we look at innovative teaching practices, and we didn't create these are out there, and it's really up to you to try to implement them and see, and we would love to help you with that. And obviously the first one's project-based learning, which I'm a massive fan of. Is I always loved projects when I was doing work. I struggled with consuming and trying to memorize information and then regurgitating that. I'd much rather work in a group where there's different strengths of the group and putting together a project and tackling real world challenges that require problem solving and collaboration, right? That's the best part about it. And maybe you need to tailor teaching strategies and content that meet individual students' needs. So how could you tailor that? Again, that takes more work. School originally was not built for that. It was one size fits all. That's not the future of education. We believe is it is more of an individualized, based on their learning style type of environment. That takes a lot more work. And then a flipped classroom model that was popular 5, 10 years ago. I think it still is kind of reversing the traditional where the teacher's up talking and lecturing the whole class period, and then students are just trying to retain that information and then put it back out into a test. Well, what if they watched you in a 5-minute video in the evening and then came to class and they were working on teams the whole time and problem solving and collaborating on the different activities in class instead of you spending 45 minutes talking? What if it was flipped? And I'm very interested in that as I get into the classroom this fall to test some of that. Again, I don't think you can lecture for 45 minutes and expect that student to watch that at home. I'm not a huge fan of homework in this, but how can we be more efficient and effective in our classroom teaching? How do we integrate innovative technology, right? So these are three kind of big picture things. I'm not promoting virtual and augmented reality. I think it's there. I think a lot of tech companies are experimenting with that. And I think it's something, if you have the opportunity to integrate that into your teaching, I think go for it. See how it connects. That doesn't mean if you're a history teacher, you've got to, you know, go out and get funding for VR goggles. But hey, if it allows you to connect your lesson that you're trying to teach better and gives students a visual. I remember in my history class, teacher would just go up and write everything down in history, and we would just copy the notes, and that's how we retained it. Well, that didn't really work for me. I struggled in that. What if I could have seen what he was talking about in the Civil War, and there was videos, and it was engaging, and I could have put some goggles on or watched a video. Again, it doesn't have to be virtual reality, but what if I was looking around and I felt like I was at in the Civil War, and that helped me learn it? Well, that's innovative and using technology. Merge those together, it could be really powerful. How to use AI and machine learning? Well, if you've been hiding under a rock this whole school year, you maybe don't know, but every tool you're using now, Google, Canva, every tool probably by the time you get to August is going to have some AI component built into it. So it's another tool that we've got to learn how to understand and use. Canva, these slides were built in Canva, and I could pull up a screen share of my Canva. They've got now a little magic assistant, and I can click. I clicked on artificial intelligence and machine learning, and it asked, hey, do you want help rewriting this? Do you want to improve the writing? Served up other graphics, other stock photos and videos. I have a pro account. And so it took the text and then identified different elements that I could add into my Canvas slides. So it's allowing us to create things quicker and more efficiently than before. It's not replacing me. We created these slides. Danielle and our team created these slides based on an outline that we took in. It took a human to do that, but AI is just a great way. And we've got another training I did a couple weeks ago on how to view ChatGPT or Bard, which is Google's, as your digital teaching assistant. How can you use it to help you develop better lessons, better activities, and brainstorm different ways? I think you've got to be able to know how to integrate that this upcoming fall. And then the last one, collaboration and communication tools. Most schools use some type of LMS or like Canvas or Google Classroom. I want to I want to throw out some other tools. And we use Slack to communicate on our team. I put together a post in Future Ready Educators a couple weeks ago of 6 essential tools that I believe business teachers should be teaching students how to use. And one of them was Slack. We don't use email to communicate on our team. I know students probably don't use email to communicate. They're texting and things like that. Slack is the way we communicate as a team. It's what a lot of businesses and corporations and entrepreneurs and startups and, you know, even other industries are using to communicate internally. Why don't you integrate that into your classroom? Say, hey, let's start a Slack channel. Here's the different channels that we're going to have inside of that based on the projects we're doing, and start to use that as your communication tool. And maybe that complements what you're doing in Google Classroom or your LMS, but it can foster some really neat ways to collaborate with your students and communicate. Or maybe you can use Discord, which is big in the gaming space. Maybe Discord is better because you can do some better voice chat stuff. Slack can do the same thing. What are some different ways you can foster more communication in your class, more ways to collaborate? And those are 2 tools that come to my mind. It's Slack and Discord. Probably a million others. You could use Remind. You could, whatever your school approves for as those tools, use those to collaborate and see what happens. Integrate it into your classes next fall and see what happens. And, and this is why we created the FRE community, Future Ready Educators community, is to give teachers the space to have discussions and share experiences and encourage one another. There's something powerful when more than 2 people come together in a community, right? And they're encouraged. They need that. People need to be lifted up. People seek community. They need that. Everyone needs validation in what they're doing, and they want to feel loved. And community does that. And so that's why we created this. Our Future Ready Talk chat room is a great place to have those discussions. We're going to be firing up a bunch of content this summer for you. So if you're watching this recording, dive into there, ask questions, share what you're learning, be vulnerable, and it's going to make the community better, and it's going to make you better as a teacher, and maybe spark some different strategies for you. So what are some benefits of innovative teaching practices and technologies from a student's perspective and the student being successful? Well, hopefully they've enhanced the ability to understand better, right? They've got a deeper learning of the things that are being taught. They're grasping the concepts more easily through that. So more communication, more collaboration, maybe visually. I'm a visual learner, so putting on the VR goggles or using some AI tools help me to learn the content in a better way, more easily. Well, that's a benefit, right, of doing that. Skill development. So new approaches could help students discover and developing new skills, like we talked about. Maybe something sparks in them, like that's how I use critical thinking skills, or oh, I know how to solve problems. Oh, I love starting and creating new things. I can use creativity, or I love being a team. I love being the team leader in our projects. Those skills translate. That's what we're talking about. Those are future ready skills that translate to the marketplace or to college, wherever they go. And, you know, technology can really help cater individual learning styles and needs. Again, these are same things, but these are the benefits as a result of doing some of those, integrating those things. These are the benefits that students see. And what's the opportunity as far as increasing student engagement and motivation, which is a big topic, right? Students want the learning to feel, you know, personal, that they have some motivation behind that. Otherwise, they're just going through the motion. They're just playing the game of school, which isn't good for anybody. And so these innovative ways can help make learning more interactive and more hands-on, and increase engagement. That's why we love the streaming and the broadcasting learning, because it's hands-on. They're the ones doing it. And the students that have really grabbed a hold of this, it's changed their whole mindset of where they're going for as a career and the way they learn things. And they're engaged. It doesn't happen everywhere, but the ones who go all in and really find a passion for broadcasting or creating videos and graphics, starting a student-run business, it's lighting a fire under them. How do we get that to happen for all of students to lead to successful, productive learning environments? How do we make it real world, connect to the real world through project-based learning? I went to my son's fifth grade class the last week, and he had Genius Time, which was from Google. Every fifth grade class does it. They get a certain amount of time each week to create a project that they're passionate about. So him and two other buddies collaborated, and they created RMB Studios, so Micah Beckett Studios. And they had the iPad set up. They made this about 10-minute video with different segments, trick shots. They had this lightsaber scene in there. They did, what if you worked out during school while you're learning, and he's doing lunges while he's reading a report. It was funny, had kids laughing. Like, he learned something during that. He had the opportunity to do something creative there. It wasn't perfect. They had to problem solve because they couldn't export the video out properly. But really cool learning, and it was project based. There was really no parameters on it. Other kids did some different videos on Minecraft or crocheting or something they made. We need more of that, and how that connects to the real world. And then ownership in their learning, empowering students with control over that same thing in that Genius Time. They got to own their learning. And they didn't think about it as they were learning something. There was no test. It was a presentation at the end of the school year for what they learned. And that's my story at Doane College, where I got my business degree. I took an entrepreneur class, and the first day the teacher walked in, he goes, "All right, what are you guys going to do?" He gave us ownership the second we walked in, and my eyes lit up and a spark went off, and I started thinking all these different ideas. And as I reflect back, that's the story. That's the class I tell everybody, where I had ownership in my learning, because he let us determine where the class. Gave us kind of a box to work in. He supported us and facilitated it, but it was an entrepreneurship class. And we ended up creating a marketing plan for our golf course, and actually helped change the name from Henderson Municipal Golf Course to Galloway Creek Golf Course. And because of that class, and that's what I remember the most. And I felt empowered. How do we give more opportunities for students to do that? Well, it starts with, being okay with not having a structure in the class and going, "Hey, here's some things we need to do. Here's the box. Go create it. I'm going to support you along the way, and you're going to fail. You're going to find out it's a lot harder than you think." And it was the most impactful class I had in my college career. And it sparked me to want to become an entrepreneur. So there's three things that we kind of can summarize, as we prepare students for an ever-changing job market. Adaptability, right? Be able to adjust to whatever comes our way. Having the critical thinking skills to navigate and go, maybe I need to go learn this, right? Lifelong learning mindset. I don't know how to do X. I'm going to go learn how to do that so that I can do my job. Having that drive and that passion. Edwin's a great example of that in education. Now he's in real estate. So he's got a lifelong learning mindset, because he didn't know anything about real estate. He went to school to become an educator. Fascinating transition and transformation there. What are the future ready skills? How do we embrace innovation in the classroom that equips students with the technical and soft skills that employers want? And it's going to help increase their career chances, their marketability, which I think every school desires. But what does that look like? We've got to shift, we've got to pivot and think differently. And students can leave with these three things: adaptability, a skill set that allows them to think about the future, not knowing what jobs are going to look like, and want to learn, continue to learn, no matter what passion sparks up that they want to learn. And again, what drives me is I think I had all three of these, but no one ever told me that. I didn't know that I had adaptability and passion. I had some skills that were going to set me up to become an entrepreneur, and that I did like to learn, just not the way school was necessarily delivering that learning. And that's hard. I know that's hard to even think about if you're an educator watching this, is you're like, well, we're doing a good job of preparing students. Got some great examples of that. And so that's good. Let's continue to lean into that. What was working? What areas weren't working? How do we get better? Again, not just kind of being comfortable and being okay with the status quo. So we developed this way to kind of recap everything we just went through for you to think about future with this acronym. So F for flexible teaching methods, the things we already talked about. U, utilize innovative technologies. We talked about that. AI, virtual reality, gamification, mobile learning, the flipped classroom. Personalized learning. For T, tailored learning experiences. Another U, unleash student potential. Increased engagement, motivation, autonomy. Kids having ownership in their learning is going to unleash their potential. How do we connect their learning to real world examples inside and outside the classroom? How do we equip students for the evolving job market? We teach adaptability, we teach the future ready skills that we're talking about here, and help students develop a lifelong learning mindset. So that's future. That's something we're going to continue to talk about here. So we've got a checklist here for you. For those watching on demand, please send me a message in Future Ready Educators, and I will get you a PDF of the checklist that you can use this fall. Just kind of some really basic checklist that you can use in your classroom to make sure you're checking the boxes of helping students develop future ready skills in your business or tech class specifically. But this can be used in any class if you'd like. So that's our training today. We're just about up on time here. We've got a great workshop coming up. For those that watch this before June 5th, please sign up, scan the QR code. We're going to be at York Holtis Convention Center. We've got some great speakers lined up. Rob Goff's going to be talking about the curriculum he developed that we provide schools around digital media education. We've got Marcus Shear, who's going to be sharing about leveling up and taking your broadcast to the next level through some of the equipment and the way he structured his broadcast program. And then we have Jeremy Bohr, who's going to talk about their student-run business, 74 Creative, which is a media business they created. In addition to, they do some machine kind of engraving and things like that in their shop class. And so they've created a business called 74 Creative that they do video production and graphic design for local organizations and businesses. So you're going to hear from them. Great time to connect, learn something new, and grow in your profession. Again, all the things that help prepare students for this evolving job landscape. You've got to do your part, and I know you will because you're watching this, which is step number one. So thank you guys for joining. Appreciate the conversation, and hopefully you got some value out of this in our Innovative Monday series. Stay tuned for the next training here in June, and hope to see you at our workshop June 5th. Thanks, everybody.